thermostat, and I'm going to show you a few of the main things to check when your AC stops working. First thing we want to check is the breaker panel. We want to look for something labeled furnace, air handler, or heat pump. So we want to check that the furnace breaker and the AC breaker are both in the on position. So like this one's off right now. We want to make sure it's on or not tripped. Other thing we can do if nothing's running inside, first thing you can come do is come to the breaker panel, turn off the furnace and the AC breaker, wait for about 30 seconds and go ahead and flip both of them back on. All right, so after resetting your furnace and AC breaker, let's make our way to the thermostat and check that we have it set to a temperature lower than the temperature inside and set to cool mode or heat mode, whichever you're calling for. After resetting the breakers, you'll notice that the system's gonna go on a quick equipment delay, so that cool on can be flashing for about 5 to 10 minutes before the system can come back on. After resetting your breakers, if you come inside to the thermostat and see that it's still blank, we need to make our way up to the attic or the mechanical closet, wherever your indoor unit's located, and check the indoor system. So after resetting your breakers, if your thermostat is still blank, we want to make our way to the indoor unit. When you get to the indoor unit, there's a couple things to check. We want to make sure there's no water in the drain pan. If there's water in the pan, what you can do is take some towels and a bucket and soak up some of the water and start wringing it out into the bucket. The other thing with the safety switch on the pan, we want to make sure that it's mounted to the side of the pan. Sometimes they fall off and they can end up resting in the pan like this, and that will trigger this float device to kill power to the unit. So we want to make sure it's mounted properly on the side of the drain pan. All right, so the next and most important thing is checking your air filter. You want to make sure that the filter is not dirty. This specific unit has a 1-inch filter, so these need to be changed every 1 to 2 months. Easy way to tell if your filter needs to be changed is if it's a grayish or black color. It should be pretty clean and white, like this. The other thing when you change your filter, most filters have an airflow arrow. You want to make sure that it's pointing to your supply plenum and not your return plenum. This is the return plenum that's next to the filter. So we want to make sure the arrows are pointing to the direction that the air is flowing. All right, so if you had water in the pan, after cleaning it up, there's a couple things we want to check. We want to see if the system's frozen. So the easiest way to see is you can pull back the insulation a little bit on the bigger suction line. You can check on the line set for any ice. If there's ice on the line set, we want to turn the fan on for the system and leave cooling off so that it can melt for a couple hours. So if your system's not frozen and there was water in the pan, we want to check if the primary drain line is clogged. To check if the drain line is clogged, you can take the cap off and look down into the drain line. If you see water built up high up to here, and no water coming through your vent, you can look down through the vent to see if you see water traveling past. If you don't, there's a good chance that the P-trap is clogged. All right, so if your P-trap is clogged, you want to take the cap off and pour a little bit of vinegar down this drain line. You want to let it sit for a little bit so it can dissolve any gunk or debris built up down at the bottom of the P-trap. After it sits for a bit, you can come flush some water down the drain line and then put the cap back where it is. And after you flush some water down, check through the vent right here to see if you see any water flowing. If you do, then it means your drain line is clear. So after resetting your breakers and letting your system go through the equipment delay, after about 10 minutes, if you hear your inside unit come on, that's good. Now we want to go check that the outside unit is also running. All right, so next thing we want to check is that the outside unit is back up and running. Easiest way to tell is if you see the fan blade spinning. If it's not running, what we can do is come check the emergency disconnect, and we can make sure that the disconnect is in the on position. To tell if it's in the on or off, the on position should be up top and the off should be down low. If it's flipped, we need to flip it by pulling out the disconnect. If it was like this, that means it's in the off position. To make sure it's in the on should be on top, and just go ahead and push it in.